if a brand wanted to fix some of these issues, it's not going to be all, and it's of course not going to be overnight. But let's say in the next 90 days, where would you have them start?
Mm, okay, I'll try to keep this brief because 90 days is a long time frame. So, well, I will try to make it practical. So the goal here is not to fix the whole website in 90 days. Well, because for this one, you need a whole team. So if you're a small team or if you don't have like technical or engineering as support, so I think your goal should be to move your most important pages from like maybe visible to actually citable. So that's why in day 1 to day 30, so in the first month, what I will suggest is for you to find the pages that are currently blocked. So you can start with your highest value revenue generating pages. Can be product pages, service pages, pricing pages, depends on your industry. And you don't need a technical, like very complex technical setup for this. You can just start, opening your search console and look for pages that are stuck in crawled but not indexed currently. So that means Google has seen the page but has not decided whether it is worth indexing or not. So from there, you can do a simple check. So open the page, right click, and you can click on inspect and see the source and ask yourself this question. Can AI see the main content and internal links there? Do you have really internal links? Or do you have proper return tag? So if the answer is no, then that page may be too dependent on JavaScript for some crawlers and AI systems to cite. So also check whether this page has basic blockers. Like, did you leave no index tags mistakenly? Do you have wrong canonicals? Or is anything blocking your resources? Or if this page can be a duplicate of another topic, just try to do a cleanup first, and then the optimization. So the page needs to be easier to extract from. You don't need engineering support here. What you need is the optimization part, which is like adding an answer blog, a comparison table, or some sort of checklist. So a lot of pages are technically indexed, so we do not have super critical, if you don't have super critical issues on technical setup, then you need to focus on the content. So those content that are technically indexed, they might not be easy to reuse as a source. They might be long, generic, and hard to quote. So what I would suggest is to filter your top pages and ask yourself, like, if an AI system had to pull one useful answer from this page, where is it? If you are seeing this, that is great. But if there is no clear answer, you need to create one. So just add a short direct answer, maybe near the top, like a TLDR or summary, or add some comparison points, and add dates to signal that the content is refreshed, and also add author to prove the crawlers that your content is authoritative enough. So this is a very low hanging fruit item because this improves both human experience and machine readability. And for this one, you don't need a technical team. And the last one for the third month is building proof, because the AI do not understand your brand only from your website. There are multiple channels as well. Like, they look for consistency across the web. So they check your social profiles, LinkedIn, review sites, PR pages, documentation, or local market pages. So that's why do not just translate the English proof, the English source. You need to add local proof. You need to add local examples to your local content. And you need the local regulations, local payment methods, the questions that local people really ask. And if you have limited capacity, which most of the case, which most brands are struggling on that, you don't have to do this for every market. Pick one priority market and priority content type, because you cannot optimize for all the markets at the same time if you don't have enough team capacity. So pick the market that brings you the most revenue or that brings you the most traffic, where you're your target market. So I think the practical rule here is simple. First, you need to make the page eligible and make it extractable easily. And then you need to build trust around the web.
Yeah, and what I really love about what you're saying or what you just said, Pinar, is that it's not to start with the shiny stuff or, like you said, what we're seeing on LinkedIn and all the influencers are posting out there, but it's actually the foundational is what we want to start with, which is something that I've always really fundamentally believed in, especially when we've started to see the shift from traditional SEO into AI search for the past, let's say, almost 2 years now. And it almost feels like we're moving backwards in time to when the internet, again, like I mentioned earlier, was created 3 decades ago, because we're now focusing more than ever on simply creating great content, but great content for people and not for bots. It's not, we're not in the world of just content stuffing or just this content boom anymore. It's really about thinking about your quality. And again, going back to how AI search is still building upon the fundamentals of SEO, what you're talking about is establishing for EEAT, right? And so we saw that huge shift with the core algorithm update a few years ago, and so now it's becoming more important than ever. So it's almost this cycle of recycling what has always been important to SEO, but then taking that and implementing it into an AI search ecosystem. And on the JavaScript point that you mentioned as well, I guess I'd just like to reinforce one thing for the more technical folks that are listening in, because I think what we're seeing is that this aspect trips up even really good SEO or AIO teams, and that's the gap between your raw HTML and your rendered document object model, or your DOM, which is now a first-class ranking risk, right? Googlebot will defer rendering typically and come back later, which is what we know as two-wave indexing, right? So looks at all your HTML, and then if there is JavaScript, it'll come, and there's enough crawl budget, it'll come back and render down your JavaScript into HTML. But of course, it's a very tedious task, but Google will do it. But the third-party AI crawlers don't, right? They largely take the initial HTML response and simply move on. So like I mentioned, many just don't execute on the JavaScript that they find on your website. So a view source text on your key pages is actually one of the easiest and most crucial 5-minute checks that you can also run. I think we're talking about really practical, quick ways to test things. This is one of them. If your primary content and links aren't in that raw response, you can probably safely assume that a big chunk of the AI ecosystem can't see them either. And then one of the last things that I'll kind of pick up on is on the myths part that you mentioned. And that could be a key point for some of the audience here today, because I feel like we're almost playing Mythbusters here, right? And I kind of like to add the why behind it. An LLMs.txt file isn't a ranking signal because there is no retrieval pipeline reading it, like you mentioned earlier, right? The RAG model that some of these LLMs will pull upon. So the crawlers are actually grounding these answers, are the crawlers are grounding these answers are the same ones indexing your pages, right? So they leverage the page itself, the content itself, not the side file. So instead, you should be spending engineering hours on rendering and indexability, not on chasing a spec that nobody's actually consuming and has been said doesn't really matter when it comes to your AI visibility.